Good morning, British literature students. Welcome to the third week of the fall 2017 semester. So this week we're going to take a look at something called the French Revolution. Now you may be saying to yourselves, but I thought this was a British literature class. Why are we doing the French Revolution? Well, the truth is the French Revolution had a worldwide impact, not just an impact in France. The storming of the Bastille occurred in 1791, and then, of course, the Reign of Terror happened shortly after that. The French Revolution was an overthrow of royalty. So Louis XVI and his wife Marie Antoinette were taken from their palace and arrested. Now later they would be beheaded, but they weren't beheaded yet when what we're looking at occurs. What we're looking at is something called pamphlets. And pamphlets were the social media of its time. So there was not the immediate feedback you get from people when you tweet something these days or when you post something on Facebook, and then people immediately jump in and start arguing with you. But these pamphlets were a form of argument, and they were a way for people to spread political ideas. So we're going to be looking at two sides. Now, the people of England were watching very closely what was going on in France, because there were people in England who wanted to do what France did, and that was get rid of its king. Now, at the time, the king was George III, who by this point had already lost the American colonies. So the American colonies became America under King George III's reign because the people of North America did not like the abuses of not particularly the king, but the king's people. And so there were people in England who also wanted to do what France did and get rid of its king. And then there were others that were called royalists that were for the king and did not want to overthrow the government. In fact, the one side you're going to look at is Edmund Burke, who is a royalist. He loved George III. He particularly loved Louis XVI and Marie Antoinette. In fact, he's going to sing Marie Antoinette's high praises in what you're going to read. So when you read Edmund Burke, he's going to make the argument that having a king is necessary, and that having a king is working just fine, thank you very much, and that the rights of the English people are guaranteed by a couple of documents, which are the Magna Carta and the Declaration of Right. So if you'll remember, whenever we were looking 2 weeks ago at pre-1800 British history, one thing that we looked at was those two documents. So when Edmund Burke mentions those two documents, now you should know what they are. So if you don't, review those documents really quickly. On the other side of the debate were Mary Wollstonecraft, who you're going to see again next week, and Thomas Paine. And if you're thinking, you mean the Thomas Paine that wrote Common Sense and the Crisis Papers in America? Yes, it's that Thomas Paine. He was a very brilliant man. He did not particularly like King George III at all. In fact, he despised him. And he thought that what was going on in France, just like Mary Wollstonecraft thought what was going on in France, was a good idea, and that England should consider ousting its king as well. So they are going to counter Burke. So you read Burke first because Burke was the first to publish his pamphlet. Mary Wollstonecraft and Thomas Paine are going to be direct reactions to Burke. That's why you read them second. So, in fact, they will both actually attack Burke in ways that you might see nowadays on these so-called news channels like Fox News or MSNBC. So if you like a good political debate and you like a heated argument, then you're going to really love this week's readings. And this week's posting will reflect that, as I'm going to have you analyze Burke's side and then how Wollstonecraft and Paine are going to counter that. So look to the slideshow, acquaint yourself with the French Revolution, read the introduction to the French Revolution, it's only like 3 or 4 pages, and then read Burke and read Wollstonecraft. And I really hope that you enjoy this week's readings as much as I do.